A very cordial welcome to a new CAF tutorial which deals with trees. Today I'm going to show you how to populate a tree which is able to display different data on each hierarchy. What we would like to achieve is basically that the user is able to enter any comment, for example my first comment, and when the user hits the save button, basically the comment is going to be saved into the tree, as you can see here. But what you see is that the name of the user and the current date has been added automatically. And this means on the first level of the hierarchy you see the username and the current date, and in the second hierarchy of the tree you will see the entered comment. And now the user can proceed and add different comments. My second comment, and as you can see it has been added as well. So now the question is, how can it be done that you can display various data? For example, on the first level of the tree you see the username and the date, and on the second level you see actually the entered comment. And this is what we are going to be covered today in the CAF tutorial. So first of all, I created a new solution within the solutions view of the SRG designer. I created a Portlet project which is called Scalable TreeExample. And I only created one portlet which is called comment. This is the starting point for our example. First of all, we have to start with some implementation background. Therefore, I switch to the View project. Usually in projects I do set up my project view using working sets, so I can organize my projects easily and know which projects belong to which solution. So here you can see I created a working set which is called SAG community. Here you can see the structure of my dynamic web application project, and what we are going to do now is we open some implementation. This package here contains the entire implementation which is necessary in order to construct the tree. As next, you have to implement a class which is called common node. This class extends the CAF class default node. You have to implement various methods, and the most important method is called getData. There you return the object you would like to use in the tree in order to display your data. In my case, I implemented an interface which is called comment data. So now I go ahead and open the interface in my SRG Designer installation. As you can see, I implemented different methods, and here I implemented all the methods which are necessary in order to display the data on the different hierarchical levels in the tree. For example, you see the user ID I would like to display, the current date, and the get info, which basically is the node that the user entered. And very important is another enumeration I implemented which is called common data type. So I open it, and as you can see it basically has two different entries which are called header and info. The header is what you saw in the browser, which is the username and the current date, and the info is basically referring to the node that the user entered. So there I can distinguish on which level of the hierarchy in the tree I would like to display, and this way I can access the data. The next step is to implement a class which implements this interface. Therefore, I created the class abstract common data which implements this interface. Important, this class is abstract and therefore shouldn't be instantiated. The only thing you are going to pass is the common data type, so either header or info. and all the other operations just throw an exception, unsupported operation exceptions. So the next step would be that you create concrete subclasses of abstract common data which basically implement the functionality and provide the data that you would like to display in the tree. For our CAF tutorial, there are basically two subclasses necessary. The first class is called header.java, and it's going to display the header information, like for example the user ID and the current date. All you have to do is to extend abstract common data and implement the data you would like to display. So important is that you also provide the default constructor, because this is required by the CAF tree itself. So here, as you can see, you have to apply the common data type, in my case header, and then you have another constructor which you need in order to populate the data for the tree. And then you just go ahead and implement the methods. And as you can see, you don't have to implement all the methods of the interface, because you actually extend abstract common data. The second class is called node, and this class provides the data that the user entered when he created the node. As you can see in the constructor, in the default constructor, I passed the information common data type.info, and you see that the only information that are going to be provided by this class are info and ID. This ID is also necessary in order to identify an entry in the CAF tree uniquely. Now we have all the classes in place in order to scale the CAF tree. All you have to do is extend the interface with the data you would like to display in the tree. Then you go ahead and add those methods in the abstract class abstract common data, and just throw unsupported operation exceptions, and then you create your subclasses, like for example header or node, and just implement the methods you would like to provide data in the hierarchy. Now we can open the user interface and construct our tree example. Therefore, I open the view of my portlet within my project under Web Content, Comments, Default View. The user interface is pretty straightforward. I just created a tree, and therefore I used the UI control asynchronous tree. And I also created my input field for the new comment and two buttons, save and cancel. The interesting part is now that you can see I also used the UI control if and else. And there you can see I used this expression which is called data type. And if the data type is equals header, I would like to display the user ID and the time as a string. And if the data type is info, I would like to display the info itself. So this is exactly how I can distinguish between the different hierarchies. On the first level of the hierarchy, I would like to display the header, and on the second level of the hierarchy, I would like to display the info. And that's it. The most important connections between the user interface and the implementation itself is that I created a provider, a list tree provider, which is called comments provider. This is the provider which is basically assigned to my user interface tree. As you can see, when I click on the tree in the user interface, you can see on value that I added my content provider. Other important entries are the new comment, which is basically my comment that the user will add in the user interface and is attached to my input field. As you can see, value, new comment. Other important method is called save. This is an action method, and this method actually adds the comment to the tree. And here you see I have another bean which is called controller, and this controller provides me with the user model, so I can get the data of the user which is currently logged on. The important method is called save, which you can see in the bindings view. This method is bound to the user interface control save itself. So I will have a closer look at that method, so I'm going to open its implementation. As you can see, I invoke the controller, and the controller has a method which is called addCommon. You may have a closer look at the implementation on how I implemented it in order to add comments to the tree. Important is that you get an updated list with the new comments, and then the provider is called, the tree provider is called, and the new list is added. And that's it. The example is now ready to run on the MyWebMethod server. Therefore, I opened the view servers and deployed my example to the MyWebMethod server. Now I can open the browser and log into it and show you how the example works. So I log on as sysadmin. Now I navigate to my portlet in order to invoke it and demonstrate the example. Therefore I navigate through the MyWebMethods server folder structure, like folders, system, then I navigate to page 3, and there you see the folder portlets, and then I navigate to my example using the page 3. And here you can see, here's my page, my folder Scalable TreeExample. So I open it, and here you can see my portlet. I click on the portlet, and as you can see, the example appears. Finally, we finish where we started. You can go ahead and enter your comments. For example, first comment, save it, display it, and add a second comment. You may then open all items or close all items.